It began with gunfire in a small Balkan city and ended with empires collapsing across the world. From 1914 to 1918, more than 65 million soldiers fought and over 17 million people died. It was called the Great War, and people said it would be the war to end all wars. But instead, it changed everything. The way nations fought, the way people lived, and the shape of the modern world itself. This is World War I, explained simply. Before 1914, Europe was a powder keg waiting to explode. At the heart of it were five great powers: Britain with its mighty navy and global empire, France, proud and powerful, Germany, young and ambitious, Russia, vast and unstable, and Austria-Hungary, a crumbling empire of many nations. Two rival alliances divided them: the Triple Entente, France, Britain, and Russia. The Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. They all wanted peace, but they also wanted power. They built armies, signed secret treaties, and prepared for a war nobody thought would happen. Then, in the summer of 1914, a single bullet lit the fuse. On June 28, 1914, in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, was visiting the city with his wife. A group of Serbian nationalists wanted Bosnia to break free from Austria and join Serbia. They planned to assassinate the Archduke. After a failed bomb attempt, the royal couple continued their visit, but fate intervened. Later that morning, one of the conspirators, Gavrilo Princip, happened to see their car stopped on the street and fired two shots. Both the Archduke and his wife were killed. The world gasped. Austria blamed Serbia and, with Germany's backing, issued an ultimatum. Serbia, supported by Russia, refused to accept all the demands. Within weeks, a regional crisis became a continental catastrophe. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Russia began to mobilize to defend its ally. Germany declared war on Russia, then on France. To reach France, German troops invaded neutral Belgium, and that brought Britain into the war. Within a week, Europe was at war. The soldiers marched off singing patriotic songs, believing it would all be over by Christmas. They couldn't have been more wrong. The German plan, the Schlieffen Plan, aimed to crush France quickly, then turn east to fight Russia. At first, it almost worked. German armies swept through Belgium and northern France, advancing toward Paris. But in September 1914, at the Battle of the Marne, the French and British stopped them. Both sides dug in, literally. Across 400 miles of ground, from the North Sea to Switzerland, they built trenches, dugouts, and barbed wire defenses. And there they stayed, for 4 long years. The Western Front became a frozen nightmare. Mud, rats, artillery, gas, and machine guns turned battlefields into killing fields. Men lived in trenches for weeks at a time, enduring rain, lice, and the constant threat of death. Battles like Verdun and the Somme became symbols of slaughter. At Verdun in 1916, the French vowed, "They shall not pass." They didn't, but 700,000 men were killed or wounded. At the Somme, British troops advanced across open fields against machine guns. On the first day alone, 20,000 were killed. This wasn't war. It was industrialized death. While the Western Front was locked in stalemate, fighting raged across the world. The Eastern Front. In the east, the Germans and Austro-Hungarians faced Russia. There were vast movements, sweeping battles, and enormous losses. At Tannenberg, the Germans crushed a Russian army of 200,000 men. By 1917, Russia was collapsing, and revolution was brewing. The Ottoman Empire. In 1914, the Ottoman Empire joined the Central Powers. The Allies tried to break through at Gallipoli in 1915, but the campaign ended in disaster, costing 250,000 Allied casualties. It was here that a young officer named Mustafa Kemal, later known as Ataturk, made his name. Africa, Asia, and the seas. Colonial troops fought in Africa and the Middle East. On the oceans, the British Navy blockaded Germany, while German U-boats sank Allied ships, including civilian ones. In 1915, the sinking of the Lusitania, killing over 1,000 civilians, turned public opinion sharply against Germany. The war was now truly global. By 1917, both sides were bleeding. Millions were dead, food was running out, and morale was collapsing. Then came two events that changed everything. In 1917, revolution swept through Russia. Tsar Nicholas II was overthrown, and by the end of the year, the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power. They withdrew from the war, signing peace with Germany at Brest-Litovsk. Germany could now focus all its strength on the Western Front. But Germany made a fatal mistake. Its submarines began sinking neutral ships, including American ones. Then came the Zimmermann telegram, in which Germany tried to persuade Mexico to attack the United States. When that message was revealed, America had had enough. On April 6, 1917, the United States declared war on Germany. At first, the American army was small, but by 1918, over 2 million US soldiers were in Europe. Fresh troops, fresh supplies, and fresh morale, they tipped the balance. In the spring of 1918, Germany launched one last desperate offensive, the Kaiserschlacht, or Kaiser's Battle. For a moment, they broke through the Allied lines. Paris was once again within reach, but the Germans had stretched too far. Their troops were starving, exhausted, and outnumbered. By the summer, the Allies, reinforced by the Americans, counterattacked. The 100 Days Offensive pushed the Germans back on every front. At home, revolution spread across Germany. Sailors mutinied, soldiers deserted, and the Kaiser fled to exile. On November 11, 1918, at 11 a.m., the guns finally fell silent. After 4 years of blood and mud, the Great War was over. The cost was unimaginable. Over 17 million people were dead. Another 20 million were wounded. Entire towns and villages had vanished. 4 great empires, German, Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian, collapsed. New nations were born: Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and more. In 1919, the victors met in Paris to decide the peace. The result was the Treaty of Versailles, a document that ended the war but planted the seeds for the next one. Germany was forced to accept full blame, pay massive reparations, and reduce its army to almost nothing. Many Germans saw it as humiliation, and a generation later, one man would exploit that anger: a failed Austrian soldier named Adolf Hitler. The war to end all wars had only set the stage for the next. Now, some interesting facts about World War I you might not know. More than 16 million animals served during the war: horses, dogs, pigeons, even camels. The youngest soldier known to have fought was just 12 years old. The first tanks, poison gas, and fighter planes were all used in World War I. Nearly 10 million shells were fired at the Battle of Verdun alone. The word tank was originally a code name to disguise the weapon as a water tank during development. The Christmas Truce of 1914 saw British and German soldiers briefly stop fighting to exchange gifts and play football. The war ended at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, November 11th, 1918. And finally, World War I never technically ended. The peace treaty with Germany expired in 2010, 92 years later. World War I destroyed the old world and gave birth to the new. It brought down kings, redrew borders, and changed the face of war forever. It gave rise to fascism, communism, modern medicine, and modern warfare. It marked the end of the age of empires and the beginning of the age of nations. But above all, it was a human tragedy on a scale the world had never seen. Millions fought for causes they barely understood, and entire generations were lost to the mud of the trenches. When it ended, the survivors said, "Never again." But just 20 years later, the world was at war again. Thank you for watching this video, the story of the war that changed everything. If you enjoyed learning about World War I and want to discover more cinematic, easy-to-understand history, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell to support the channel. You can also check out my other videos, like the Battle of Cannae, the Korean War, or the War of the Three Kingdoms, for more epic stories from history. Because history isn't just about dates and battles, it's about people, choices, and the world they left behind.